Hey guys, in this session let us learn about different types of ORA errors which are related to credentials. Okay, so we'll be learning how to troubleshoot these errors when we get any complaints from the application user or we personally face these errors. Okay, so these are the most common types of credential errors. Okay, but still there are other ORA errors which may occur during the login of any particular user. Okay, but I'm just giving you the most common errors that will be faced when we log in with respect to the username or password and also related to certain operations. Okay, so here we are not going to focus on any administrative access. Okay, we are just going to focus only on the user perspective, user in the sense the application user. Okay, so here application user complains that he or she is unable to log into the database or he could not perform an operation and it is not authorized. Okay, so for our demonstration we will just create an user called I am good DBA. Okay, identified by I troubleshoot ORA errors. Okay, so you can just remember this username and password, or you can create your own username and password. That's not a problem. Okay, so when we try to create an user without the convention, right? So here we are in container database. Okay, so in all container databases, if we don't create an user with C ##, so this is the convention for any user that we create as a common user. Okay, so here the C ## represents common user. So if we have PDB, right? So in container databases, we will be having one root container and multiple pluggable databases. So in non-container databases, in non-multi-tenant architecture, we don't require this C ##. Okay, so whenever we don't use this C ## before this username, we get this error, invalid common user or role name. Okay, but we can also work around the issue by using _Oracle script at the session level, not at the system level. Okay, so if we set it at the system level, then we may end up with some lot of vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities, or any other type of issues. Okay, so multi-tenant is specifically used for managing multiple container databases and saving the resource, right? So for that reason, Oracle has specifically used this C ## convention for any username. Okay, there is a purpose for that, but just for testing purpose we are just disabling this parameter. So this is a hidden parameter called Oracle script, and if we set this parameter to true, then we can create user without C ##. Okay, I'm not going to focus more on multi-tenant now, but to skip this error we can create users like this. Or if we set this parameter to false, then we get the error again, invalid common user or role name. Okay, so for that reason what we have to do is we need to use this C ## convention. Then only we'll be able to create when we set this parameter to false, right? So we can set this parameter to true at session level, but in real-time production systems we need to be cautious when we do this. We need to make sure that we need a common user or a user without any C ## convention. So that depends on the projects or clients conventions. Okay, so for this particular error, ORA-65096, we can use this and work around the error, right? So if we just use ORA utility, OERR utility, we will be getting the cause and action, right? So if you see invalid common user or role name, attempt was made to create a common user with a name that was not valid for common users or role, right? So this is a convention in multi-tenant databases. So that's why it is telling to specify a valid common user or role name. Okay, common user or role name means it starts with the convention C ##. Okay, so I will also paste the OERR recommendation here. Okay, so next I created the user, right? Now let me just try to connect with this user. Now what it says, ORA-01045, user lacks create session privilege, logon denied. So this is another type of error. Okay, so if the application user does not have any privilege, now I have created the user but I have not granted any privileges, right? That's the reason Oracle is not allowing me to log in, right? So now what I will be doing, I will be granting privileges, grant create session. So this is the basic privilege for connecting to the database, right? So when I just say grant create session to this user, it says SP2-0640 not connected, which means, so whenever we try to connect to any user with a particular error, Oracle will automatically disconnect the current session, right? So this is the current session where I am executing SQL queries or statements, right? So when I just executed a connection with a wrong or with no authorization, so this user does not have any authorized privilege to log into the database. So that is why Oracle has set its security mechanism to automatically disconnect from the session if the user is suspicious or whether the user is actually a part of this database or something like that, whether someone is trying to hack or not, right? For that security prevention, Oracle created this warning that you are no longer connected to Oracle, right? Which means we need to again disconnect the session and try to log in, right? So I need to exit the session and log in as sysdba. Sysdba is the privilege that gives access or complete access to the database. So if I have this sysdba privilege, it is a system privilege where we can do anything on the database. We can manage the users, we can alter the parameters, we can create users, we can manage the privilege of other users, and we can see any tables. Okay, so that's the reason whenever we give any access to any users, so we as a DBA should log in with sysdba privilege. Okay, so now let me just grant create session to this user. Okay, let me log in. So now I'm able to log in successfully. Okay, so now let me just try logging with sysdba privilege. Okay, so if I just say show user, the user is sys. Okay, and the privilege is sysdba. So sys user has sysdba privilege. Okay, so now let me intentionally give wrong username or password and try to connect. Now when I give wrong password, I am just getting this error, invalid username or password, logon denied, ORA-01017. Okay, so this means that I am either giving wrong username or wrong password. So when the moment this error occur, I am automatically disconnected from the session. So if I just execute any command, it says not connected. So I need to again exit the session and again relog in. Okay, even if I give wrong username, again I will get the same error. Okay, so this is very common error which we get as a DBA whenever we manage any database users. Okay, every application users who are trying to connect to the database will face this kind of error. Okay, so now we have seen the common privileges, right? So the only left out is ORA-01031, insufficient privilege. So now let me just connect to the same user. Okay, and what I will be doing, let me just try to alter this parameter at the system level. Okay, alter system set. Please do not do this in a real-time production system, at system level. Okay, always here system means I'm changing the whole database parameter. It's not only for this particular session. Okay, scope SP5. So when the moment I executed this alter system statement, it says insufficient privileges, which means that I don't have the privilege, or this particular user does not have the privilege to execute this statement. So this is also one of the common errors where application team face. Okay, so if application team does not have any modification, so let me just give you a scenario. Okay, so I'm just trying to create a table called T name and number. So this will not work. Okay, I will not be able to create this table. It says insufficient privileges, right? Why? Why? Because I don't have the privilege to create any table on this database. I only have restricted access to connect to the database. That's it. So that is the reason I'm not able to create a table on this particular database. So in real time, application team or application user who don't have the privilege to create a table, obviously they come to the DBA and ask, I'm not able to create the table, can you give these privileges? So when we get this error, ORA-01031, so we should remember these errors. Okay, every time or most of the time we get these kind of errors. Okay, when the DBA remember this number 1031, he should automatically know that the user does not have the privilege, this particular privilege. So when he is trying to create a table, we should give create table privilege. So when he is not able to insert, update or delete any data, we should give insert, update, delete privileges. So now let me just connect to /SSDBA and grant create table to this user. Okay, so now I will again connect to the user and create a table. Now I am able to create the table. So likewise for each and every privileges. So if I am trying to insert some data into this table, I will again get an error. Okay, no privileges on table space users. Right, so this is also one of the common error, right? Which means the user or the application user who is trying to modify some data needs privileges to store the data on a table space. So if the user does not have the privilege to store the data on a table space, then we get this error, right? So likewise, there are a lot of privilege errors. So here what we have to do, grant unlimited table space to I am good DBA. Now let me just again connect to sysdba and insert some data. Now it says yeah, so I need to connect to this particular user, insert the data. Now if you see, I'm able to insert the data, right, once I grant the privilege. Okay, so likewise there is also another scenario. Okay, so what I will be doing is I will give the wrong password intentionally multiple times. Let me log in from SQL Plus. So first time I am getting this error, invalid username or password. Second time I am getting the same error, and third time again I am getting the error. Let me just try this multiple time. So let me just check the account status from DBA users, where username is equal to I am good DBA. So the account is open even though I have used the wrong password multiple times. Okay, so we can check this in DBA profiles. Okay, if I just say profile resource name limit from DBA profiles, where profile is equal to default and resource name like failed. So we need to check the failed login attempts value. Okay, by default when we create any user, that user will go to default profile. Okay, so whatever value that is set for that profile will be applicable to that user. Okay, so here profile is something which contains a set of rules and regulations for the user for connecting to the database or managing their authorization. Okay, like failed login attempts. Failed login attempts means if I log in to the database with the wrong password for 10 times, then automatically that user will get locked. Okay, so application user has to go to the DBA and then unlock the user. Likewise, there are a lot of profiles like maintaining the password expiry. So how many days the password will expire and all the details. Okay, so now let me just use the wrong password for 10 times. Then my account will get locked. Yeah, so now I'm getting this error, account is locked. So this is also one of the common error application user face during their login. Okay, so sometimes the application user may use the monitoring users. Monitoring users in the sense there will be a tool or utility or some interface where they just provide the username and password. Okay, that tool continuously connect to the database and execute some queries. So it is kind of an application. So like batch systems. Okay, some of the batch systems will try to connect to the database iteratively, and it will execute some queries and some kind of automated statements. So in those cases, if the password is not updated on the tool itself, what that tool will do, every interval, like if 5 minutes is the interval, every 5 minutes that tool will try to connect to the database with the wrong password or the expired password. So when the number of attempts come to 10, right? So if more than 10 attempts are there, then the account automatically gets locked and the user or the tool will get this particular error, ORA-28000. So this means that account is locked and we cannot, even if we give the correct password, right, still we'll get the message saying that account is locked. Okay, so now application team will come and complain or raise a request to the DBA saying that my account is locked, please unlock it. So now what we can do, alter user, or first we need to check whether the account is locked or not as a DBA. Okay, from the application side, the account is the error which is occurring is ORA-28000. So now he complains to the DBA. Now as a DBA, what we do, we log into the database and check the account status. Okay, so there are a lot of types of account status. Like if the account is open, then it is open. So if it is locked, then it will show locked timed or locked gracefully, something like this. So there are a lot of different scenarios for that, but let us just focus on the type of error first. So if it is locked timed, then that means what we need to do, we just need to unlock it, that's it. This user account unlock, that's it. So now when I try to connect to the user, I will be able to connect, right? So this is one kind of scenario. Okay, so there is also another scenario. What we can do is we can just simulate the scenario, okay, saying that password expired. Okay, so now the password of this particular user is expired, but in real time it does not work in this way. DBA should not expire the password. There should be some intention to expire the password, right? So when DBA is giving some password to the application user, he can expire the password manually and tell the application user to reset the password himself if there is some mechanism, right? Since the DBA knows the password of the application user, it is not highly secured, right? So when the application user's password is known by the DBA, then there may be some security vulnerabilities, right? Even the DBA can use the application user and do anything. So for that reason, we need to make sure that we expire the password and give the temporary password to the application user and tell the application user to reset the password. Okay, so now I have expired the password of the application user. So there is a column called expire password or password expiry. So let me just check the number of columns. Yeah, it's expiry date. So now account status is expired. Previously it was locked, right? So now account status is expired, which means the password that this particular user is using is no longer valid. Okay, so this is one of the scenario, right? So now if I just try to connect to the user, it will say password expired. So this is one of the common error which application user face. Okay, so since I have the privilege to change the password in the command line, I can change it here. But for application user, they will not be able to connect. They will get only this error. The password has expired, something like this, right? So what I can do is I can just change the password. Alter user identified by I am good DB, same. So now I will use the same password. Now I am able to connect, right? So if I just check the account status, it says open, which means the user will be able to connect to the database without any errors. Okay, so these are the different types of scenarios related to credentials which DBA often face. Okay.